Hi guys, and welcome back to Making Mischief. I'm so excited because today I have Iman on with me. How's it going?
It is going quite fabulous. How's it going with you, Maggie?
Oh, I can't complain. I mean, I could because the weather outside sucks, but other than that, we're doing great. I am curious. I always like to kick things off with like an easy softball intro of just like you are quite prominent on TikTok, and that is how I found you through BookTok. Why did you get involved with BookTok in the first place?
Wow. It's funny to hear that because I don't think of myself as like quite prominent on BookTok, but I'm flattered that you think so. I started a BookTok account because I love to read. So actually not primarily as a writer or an author. I was creeping for a while on BookTok, just getting book recs, especially at the start of the pandemic. Um, but once there was a finished draft of my book and I was working with my publisher and I felt like, oh, wow, this might actually become something that I want people to read and I want to be able to promote. I started making videos and it was at first a challenge. Like I had this idea in my head where I was going to make really polished, like advice videos for writers and day in the life videos. And I think I did that for about a month and then realized that it was just too much work on top of like a full-time job and part-time writing. So then I just started chaotically making videos and doing trends and interacting with other creators. And it might like my small following just sort of happened organically. Like I just was able to connect with other like-minded authors and writers who found like the writing content relatable. I was able to connect with readers who were looking for books in my genre. And honestly, like it changed my life, not because I suddenly have like this giant fandom or anything, but because on days when I'm feeling like the most unsure of myself and insecure, which I feel like any creative will tell you, like it's a constant push and pull between feeling like, oh, I'm so excited about this, like this could be amazing, and this is terrible. It's the worst thing ever written. I should never leave my house again. I have this like amazing community of people who are constantly just like gassing me up and encouraging me and like reminding me to keep on going. So I feel like um, that is BookTok's like greatest asset is the community. Like it's actual real community building. Like look at you and me. It's crazy.
I think the same thing. I also think it's wild because of how it's like a supportive community in a way that I haven't really seen one before. It's like everybody found, I'm sure that there was a time when people found BookTube and like Bookstagram and book blogging, but TikTok makes this thing accessible for everybody. And all of a sudden everybody's able to connect over like and make friends that they've never had because of the content they're reading. And like all of a sudden, because of the genre someone likes to read, it's like I know them. Like I'm full, like all of a sudden I'm like, okay, we have the same thoughts about A, B, and C, and I can have a drink with you. Like that's kind of what it boils down to. And so I'm so glad that like you felt that way, because TikTok can also be like people are like, oh, I want more views, and it's like it hits your mental. But to build that organic audience is also best because it's around you. That's what the success comes from, I think, is by like you're being authentic on there, you know?
No, 100%. I mean, so much to say. I completely agree. It's like suddenly I feel like it's never been easier to find common ground with other people, just based on their book recommendations and like their love of reading, their interest in finding out about new genres and connecting with other like-minded readers. Even me, like I was creeping on your TikTok earlier today and I saw that you just finished It Happened One Summer, which like I feel like I know exactly the mental state you're in now. It's probably difficult to focus on anything for that long. Oh, you've already moved on. Fantastic.
Oh, I
I just
haven't
thought of,
moved on. I just like cannot separate myself from the world. It's like a problem.
yep, we're all moving to a small fishing town.
I'm
Um
gone immediately.
yeah, in Washington, in Westport. Yeah, exactly. But even that, I feel the amount of connectivity that I feel when I realize that a stranger has read a book that I loved, and my desire to want to engage them, it's really surreal. And I mean, I think that that's always the intention of creating art or creating something personal, is that other people are able to connect with it and, take away what they will from it. And then you're able to have some sort of dialogue about like the different ways you interpreted things and your favorite parts and what you wanted more and less of. And you create real connections that way. Totally agree. And yeah, I mean, I do think that TikTok has become unbelievably influential when it comes to book marketing and promotion. It has basically changed the publishing industry. It's 100% changed self-publishing. And I think you'll notice the way that traditional publishers are basically snapping up the rights to successful self-published novels, that everyone's like paying attention to books that are being organically blown up through word of mouth marketing on TikTok. But I even think like big budgets being allocated from publishers to TikTok accounts. While it's great because I want all my BookTok friends to, get their bag, I think that nothing measures up to having a real, natural BookTok community following where people are just sort of connecting with your content and feel like they have a sense of who you are as a person, and are able to follow your journey and your like the story of who you are through your reading and your reading habits, which is so niche and I love it. But yeah, I mean, it can definitely, I've always had to be online for what I do. And there are certain boundaries that I've always had to draw because I know that I can't handle a certain amount of toxicity. For example, I've always put my foot down about not being on Twitter, at least publicly, like as a public figure.
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, and it's because I know I can't handle Twitter when there's a pile-on. Like I know I can't handle like I don't think people are constantly being supposed to be able to like publish their thoughts without a filter and like engage with each other when they're not thinking as critically as they could be. I just think that it breeds sort of like a lack of analytical thinking, and like it doesn't foster deeper connection the way that I found like the TikTok community does. So I do think that
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like on TikTok, you're able to see someone in their environment, and otherwise you disconnect easily.
You can't separate who someone is from their account, like the way that Twitter desensitizes you to, you look at the numbers in a different way. And so again, like not hating on people that love Twitter. I think a lot of journalists, writers, book people can't operate without Twitter. But I saw a great, I don't know what TikTok tweet, whatever meme that said that Twitter is for writers, but TikTok is for readers. And I think that really encapsulates the difference, where like TikTok is a place to just like love on books and share book recs and like swap referrals and grow your library. Whereas I think writer Twitter is a place to sort of like size each other up a little bit and promote yourself. And I don't know if that's something that gets you going, good for you. Never going to shame anyone's social media habits, but I personally I don't think I thrive in environments like that. I would much rather be just like writing like praise in everyone's comment section, like hyping people up, like reposting videos that I love, like hearting trends that I want to go back and try. I think of TikTok as like a love fest. And I try really hard to keep negativity off of my feed the best that I can.
I do the same thing. It's like, y'all, even if I start seeing any kind of videos that even promote negativity or like speaking poorly about people, I just block or I say not interested in that content because I can't. I'm like, I get to pick how I am in this space. So I like that you are similar in your boundaries there. But I know that you like, it's so funny. I think of you as the like everybody on BookTok, I'm always like, oh, I wonder if they were only started writing because of BookTok or because people thought that they were interested or something. I think of you as like the always writer. Like I picture like baby you just like as you've grown up just writing, because so many of your videos have like your old home videos. And
Yeah.
so I'm just curious, like, I mean, this book comes out next month. It comes out in July, although this is probably going to be released in July. So probably the week of the
It's
release.
July.
So so we're in the future right now. But what does that feel like to like have had this entire journey, to like know since you're so young that you wanted to do this and have it be coming to fruition?
It's super surreal. Like every single piece and part of it, every nook and cranny of it feels surreal. Every time someone tells me they've read the book, I'm like, what? Like every single time. It never stops feeling like I'm like walking in a dream, truly. And I know that sounds super cliche, and maybe it'll rub off once the book actually comes out and I'm able to like interact with it more in the world. But right now, where I'm at is that every time anyone tells me they've read it and loved it, or like wants to talk to me about it or has a question about it, I feel like I'm living in like my own fanfic about my life. Like it just doesn't feel real.
Wait, speaking of, you have the book. Let's show it, guys. It's 100 Other Girls. Let's see it. Beautiful.
It's so pretty. I just got a box of finished copies from my publisher today. Although there was like a snafu with Barnes and Noble, so a lot of people, including my boyfriend, got their pre-orders early. So I have seen the finished copy.
I saw that. I did see that.
But shout out BNN. It's fine, but like I can't believe how purple the finished copy is. It's much more of a fuchsia shade than I was anticipating. I really love it though. I do think it pops, and God, it's so like smooth. It's somehow thicker than my arc. Like I think that the paper must just be like nicer paper. Smells incredible. I love the smell of new books. But yeah, I mean, it's just very, very, it feels like one of those things that like you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop, basically. Like I just can't believe that this has come together the way that it has, and I'm just waiting for someone to tell me that like it's actually not going to happen at the very last moment, like when you plan the perfect outdoor day and then it rains last minute. Like that's how I feel, because this is just, in my mind, too good to be true. I've always written, like truly, I've always written in some capacity. I've been a professional writer and journalist for, the past, I guess, I mean, I really started in high school. So it's been a couple decades, but ever since I've graduated from college, I've worked in media. So it's not like I've been a stranger to writing professionally or working with editors or anything like that. But this particular dream really started as like a project to prove to myself that I could have something that was all mine creatively, and that I could own my work in this way and, see something from start to finish, see it through, and really have the creative vision and dedication to put pen to paper and get a draft done. So to see it go from a literal notes app thought, because that's how it all starts, like notes app, like stream of consciousness writing, to see it go from that 3 years later to I'm able to hold the book is just, I mean, it's so phenomenal. And yeah, sorry, big rant. I'm also a ranter. Just
That's
so you know.
That's what these are for. I think it's perfect. I mean, I want to hear a little bit about like how, I mean, there are so many people who are self-publishing nowadays. Did you always know that you wanted to query? How was the process with an agent? Did you have to? Did you pitch the book? What was your experience there?
I mean, I think that both routes, traditional publishing, self-publishing, there are like benefits to both. I don't think that there's a right way to publish. And I also think that like it's the best time that it's ever been to be a self-published author. And I really, really, I'm obsessed with and respect the self-published authors that I follow the work of and I read the work of, who absolutely kill it. So I definitely considered it, but ultimately decided to go the traditional route for several reasons. The largest was, at the time when I was decided to query, I was working a full-time job. I was also working part-time doing freelance writing. I knew nothing about publishing. I didn't have like any publishing connections or besides like a few authors that I knew through work. I didn't really have anyone to like walk me through the process. So my my initial thought was I don't have like the time and resources to dedicate to making this book a success if I self-publish it, because you really have to work incredibly hard to be a self-published author. You have to do all the promotional work yourself. You've got to work to, get it to the distributor yourself. And the people that do this successfully are incredibly talented and hardworking. And I think that everyone watching this will know that because they probably follow the same people that I do. But I just didn't have the bandwidth to do it myself at the time. So I wrote the book. I finished the book in early December or late fall of 2019 and started editing it, sent it to beta readers, which were mainly just like writer and editor friends to give me feedback, and was thinking of starting to query in like late February of 2020 when the pandemic hit. And those early days of the pandemic, especially, being from New York, being separated from like family and friends and isolated. And I feel like we've been in the pandemic for so long that some of us are just numb to remembering how awful those initial months were. It was so harrowing, and I didn't really feel like it was appropriate to be like promoting myself at the time, and also felt just like a lack of motivation to see it through. And then summer of 2020, June, July, a couple of different things happened. One was, the summer of reckoning following the Black Lives Matter protests and the killing of George Floyd. It opened up a real conversation about diversity and representation in publishing and in media. And a lot of the themes of my book are around representation versus tokenization, and identity trauma and exploitation and stuff like that. And of course, I'm a woman of color and I write my own voices. And I started thinking, well, maybe this is the right time for me to query. Like maybe there is something I have to say and some like, added value I can give to the industry right now. And the second reason I decided to query was because my little sister, who I'm obsessed with, shout out to Ava, had just graduated from college, and she was starting her own creative career journey and working really hard and really excited and passionate in a way that I'd never seen her before. And her drive and commitment sort of inspired me to say, like, why am I holding myself back? Like, I want to feel that spark of excitement and creativity about my work again. So those factors combined, I was like, okay, like, fuck it. We're going to query, we're going to try to traditionally publish. Like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And at this point, like, I'm already on BookTok, like watching everyone's videos, like comparing my own work to every book I read, but also just like following writers and like, trying to find hacks for sending your query letter out and all that. So again, like I'm very much grassroots. Like I'm on TikTok giving advice about my own process, but I got a lot of my advice from other people on TikTok. So couldn't have done it without the BookTok community for real. Yeah.
Like that just makes me so happy. It's so also so like it's so fun to be able to like just have things like line up in the community to support you, like to be able to have TikTok to look at for a resource in that time, also to feel like I totally understand about feeling inspired by like other people's work ethic, because for me there are these times where all of a sudden like this happened when I recently have you ever read The Summer I Turned Pretty?
I just finished it last week because I wanted to read it before watching the show. So I actually finished it like maybe Monday night. So it's very fresh.
So I finished it, I want to say last Monday night or last Wednesday, because there was an event at the Strand bookstore, and so Jenny Han and Lola Tung from the series on Amazon Prime, I think, they came and did an event, and so I wanted to finish that. And for me, like, my dream is acting, and so when I saw like an actor in a book series, like, and had her speaking, and all of a sudden, like, hearing her experience, I, like, all of a sudden, it was like someone like punched me in the gut of like, oh shit, this is what fires me up. This is what I want to be doing. And so, like, when you see that, or you have that moment of seeing someone else like having the drive that you want to have, all of a sudden it's like you get this hunger of like, okay, what are we going to do? We're making moves. And so I love that was your experience.
Yes. So many things to say. Yeah, I mean, like, that's why I love to go to readings, why I love to go to talks and panels and signings, because I truly just feel inspired when I'm surrounded by like creative people and creative energy. And I have a lot of friends who are writers, and I constantly feel inspired by their own hustle and their own work. And yeah, I mean, I try to keep my circle full of people who are supportive and not competitive. And it really just drives me. And I just love like creative people. My mother's creative. Like, as I mentioned, my sister's creative, and I come from a family that the best gift they ever gave me was that they never discouraged my creative inclinations. They always encouraged me to see them through to their greatest extent. So yeah, 100%. For those of you watching, I will say that because, again, I'm like a freak. When Maggie first reached out to me, I had seen that she was in the middle of a Throne of Glass reread, and I had just truly, like, I don't know why we're like cycling each other right now, but I had just finished Kingdom of Ash. So I was just like, so how's it going? I love your thoughts on your stories. So like truly just like
keeping up with your reread, but
I don't know like why this is happening. We're just mind melding, I guess, but hilarious. And so fun that you went to the event at the Strand with Jenny Han. I knew a lot of people that went to that. I wish I had gone. I also just like last night went through an insane wormhole of like watching interviews with Jenny Han because I wanted to hear about her experience adapting. I think that this adaptation and the Heartstopper are going to like reset the game for YA book adaptations. So that's my 2 cents, and I'm only halfway through watching the show. So
I haven't started watching it because I've been in a Tessa Bailey wormhole. So like, I'm like, I can't even look at a screen right now. There are so many things I want to watch, but I'm just like, I have to finish these, and then I'll go into my like, these are both like squeeze my heart in different ways. Like The Summer I Turned Pretty brought me back to like that angst of like high school and first love, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, too many feelings. And then I like read these and I'm like, just kidding, they're still there. So
my boyfriend came home from work last night, and I literally was like, I miss being a horny teenager. And he was like, what? And I was like, I want to die from holding someone's hand. Like, I want to like feel the immense butterflies of like making eye contact with someone and you know, like wondering what their breath smells like. I want that like young summer love again. Well, you never can get it back because everyone's like so innocent and hopeful and trusting, and the world is truly your oyster when you're like 14, 15 and just discovering yourself. Like, I think again, like wormhole with Jenny Han last night. I was listening to her talk about what it means to be in bloom. And it was just like light bulb in my head. I miss being in bloom. Like, I want to be in bloom again at some point.
And I never thought I would say that, but there's just like this intensity of everything. And like, I'm a person that I don't know if you believe in astrology stuff, but like I'm an Aries moon. So all of my feelings are usually really strong and crazy anyway. But I'm
an Aries sun.
Oh, love this for us.
I got my Aries necklace right here.
So we react to things strongly and intensely and completely. And so that's, so I guess I just love. And like also that feeling of like giddiness and like falling or like being nervous around people, like having crushes. And to be honest, it's been so long since I am single, but it's still been so long since I like
Yeah.
had a crush on somebody. And I'm just
Mhm.
like that. Yeah. When I almost like remembered what that was like. And I was like, damn, that was good, wasn't it? Like, that's a fun
Yeah.
time.
I'm obsessed with coming of age. I love adolescence. I love teenagers. I love anything that feels like it's emblematic of puberty. I just think that when you're young, you feel everything so potently and you don't have this, you don't hold yourself back from feeling things fully and everything feels like the start and end of the world. I think that's why so many people resonated with Olivia Rodrigo's Sour during quarantine because it tapped into, this unbridled feeling of you know, um, my heart will never heal itself. Like this heartbreak will be my last, which is truly how like heartbreak feels, but also how like the start of something new feels too. Like, the entire world stacking itself once again. Like I miss it. This is like one of my least favorite parts of being an adult is that you start to like numb to all these sensations. I actually feel like I froze at 13. Like I think that in my mind, I'm still 13, but somehow I'm in the body of a 27-year-old and it's just like not computing. I don't understand at all.
Well, I think it's perfect because that's why you were meant to write coming of age stories. Like, you know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
I think what I love about like I am also obsessed with coming of age stories. Like that's why coming of age indies are like my favorite thing to watch and like just dream to be a part of. And I think that when I think about even coming of age and with The Summer I Turned Pretty, even though I haven't seen this series quite yet, I do know that it's also like coming of age at any age, like whether that's like the moms or like for me, and like I want to get more into like topics of your book, but like yours explores like this like 20s, and I feel like no books are like, hey, let's talk about that weird time after college and also becoming an adult while feeling like a child and then realizing you're always going to feel like a child as an adult and like that just being rude. So tell me a little bit more about that and just like let's talk about your book.
I feel like you're speaking my language. The tagline of my newsletter, Cherrypicked, is for the girls who are still growing up, and it's about coming of age at any age. It like what goes through. It's basically vignettes, coming of age vignettes from it could be from the age of 10 to the age of 24. I publish in USA every month, and then on Fridays I do a current state of the union, a la Massey Block and the Click. And it's literally like, it's just like young nostalgia. It's just nostalgia from growing up at different parts of your life because we never stop growing up. I feel like I've grown so many years in like the last month. So, yeah, I mean, something that I really love about 100 Other Girls is that it really does have that sort of like Bildungsroman coming of age feel to it, because it does navigate what it's like to once again find yourself and find your purpose and have to separate who you are from what you do once you leave school and enter the professional world. And you have to come to terms with the fact that perhaps like the way that you anticipated things would look and feel and be don't exactly stack up with how things actually are. And I think that that's such a common experience that we are constantly having to navigate, not just when we're postgrads, although I think that we feel that extremely heavily when we're postgrads because, college is sort of like the last finite time period in our lives where we know exactly who we are and what we are expected to do. And then it finishes. And then the rest of your life is just sort of like open to interpretation in a way that you've never had to deal with before. But I do think that for the rest of your life, then you have to constantly be checking in with yourself to say, like, am I happy with who I am right now? Am I in a, healthier, toxic work environment? Do the people around me, are they serving me in some way or are they bringing negativity into my life? And I think that this book is the first sort of vibe check for RMC. And it also looks at a few different other female and non-binary characters who are also sort of self-interrogating as well, and asking themselves similar questions. So I love coming of age stories, and I don't think that we ever need to grow out of them. I certainly am not going to be growing out of mine.
No, I actually enjoy staying right here. It's fun, and I would like to explore a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned a lot of, like, when you're touching on things of coming of age and diversity, and these two pieces being really important to you in your book. What else was, like, while you were writing this, what was like something that kept you wanting, like, feeling like it needed to be read?
Wow, such a good question. So many things. I really wanted to write, and I feel like I've spoken a lot about this on TikTok, but I really wanted to write sort of messy, like morally gray, unreliable, but well-intentioned narrators and side characters from marginalized communities whose identities were important, but weren't pivotal to moving the story along. As a Middle Eastern American woman, like, I was obsessed with young adult, new adult novels, still am a huge reader, but oftentimes felt when I saw like Middle Eastern identity being portrayed on the page that like race or religion also became like a really exploitative part of the plot. And I really didn't want that to be the case with my book. So you will see that there are main characters, supporting characters, foils, love interests from a lot of different types of marginalized backgrounds. And while that definitely impacts, how they define themselves, it doesn't necessarily impact their story, and their narrative doesn't feel exploitative in any way. And that was important to me because the book really talks about what it's like to be exploited for your identity, and really navigates the difference between tokenization and representation. So I wanted the reader to be able to do the same thing as they read, as Nora, our protagonist, was having to do, to confront these realities and differences. So that was important to me. I wanted the entire book to feel reflective of like the industry that I worked in, and also the New York that I live in, which is rich with different shades of cultural diversity. I think that anyone that thinks New York is like whitewashed is living in a bit of a bubble, because there are so many amazing different kinds of people here. And I really wanted the book to feel true to that vignette of New York for me. Born and bred here, like, absolutely love the city. And I definitely feel like it acts as its own character in the book. Other things that were really important for me, I wanted to really interrogate, and I know I'm using that word a lot for the first time ever, I swear. I don't know what's up with that, but I really wanted to interrogate this idea that I think is especially drilled into young women, but any sort of entry level employees, that if they're unhappy with their work conditions, if they feel like they're working too much, if they feel like they're not being paid a living salary, if they feel like there's no sort of boundaries in their work environment, that the problem lies with them, and that they are replaceable, and that there will be 100 other girls ready to take their place at any given time. I think that this is a message that is passed on to a lot of young people, and will oftentimes like discourage them from pursuing their dreams, because they feel like they don't have or don't bring any sort of added value to their dream jobs. And I truly don't believe that that is the case. I think that like no one can do your job the way that you're able to do your job. There's no one that can replace you, the person. You are not a job role. And I really think that like separating yourself from your JD and focusing on who you are and not what you do is like really at the heart of my book. Because I've seen it just burn out and negatively impact too many brilliant creative people. So that was definitely really important to me as well.
Yeah, no, I love what you're saying, because it's kind of what I even think about, like, in the acting world. And then also when I talk to clients like of mine who are like interested in boosting their social media presence. And it's always just like, doing what everybody else is doing is like there is never going to be like this clear cut path of how you're supposed to do things correctly to get to the place where you want to be. You have to just like your POV, like your perspective is going to be the, like, it is the thing that defines you. You have the tool of uniqueness that sets you apart from everybody else. You just have to like lean into it. And I think that like so many of us, like, we might be in therapy, we might be able to have conversations about ourselves, but we struggle to like see the parts of us that are appealing to other people. And or like especially as women, we're like, oh, I am humble, I don't have anything good about me, what are you saying? And I just think it's so important to be able to recognize like what you do bring to the table and have people around you that will remind you when you forget. And I think that it sounds like, especially the characters in your book and like your environment that you're basing it on, like your own friend groups have kind of inspired that within your story.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like although the book is 100% a work of fiction, like every character, every storyline is fictitious, I definitely was inspired by every single job I worked in the industry at every level. And, you know, people I've come into contact with and, you know, events I've witnessed that truly felt stranger than fiction at the time. So fictionalizing them was, you know, even more outlandish.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I think what you said about being a woman and wanting to humble yourself and not necessarily ruffle feathers is so true. And something that I really wanted to capture in 100 Other Girls was that generational divide, like that weird generational divide between the way that we approach work environments, the way that we approach success and other women as competition. And, you know, I think that's something that has really happened to the media industry since, you know, the Devil Wears Prada and sort of like the glamorized world of magazines and print publishing is that there is now two different approaches towards the way that we think about traditional media publishing, and one has to do with like prestige and you know, like really putting in a lot of grunt work to get to a certain place and weeding out other people and beating out other people to be able to get to where you are, and having that be like a version of feminism, you know, really having to act like a man to be respected as a woman. And then there's this other approach to media, which is specifically, I think, really prevalent in digital media because it's made up of the majority of young people, like people in their 20s, bosses in their 30s, and that's considered old. And I think that the attitude there is more so like, you know, like no one wins under capitalism, like the whole system is broken. You know, who are the stories for? Who are the clicks for? Where, you know, it's a lot more questioning the system rather than wanting to beat it. And that was a tension that I really wanted to paint in the book because I think it's really fascinating. And, you know, my eyes are constantly peeled on industry news because I think that it's a story that's not done being told. I think we're going to see major changes happening to the infrastructure that the industry is built upon in the next like 5 to 10 years.
I'm so curious about that. And it's so interesting because we see it clearly on like one side or the other, but if I ever talk to somebody and ask for their personal opinion, they're like, I can kind of see both sides. And so it's one thing that I kind of love about, like, just because I love when people are able to clearly see that, but and kind of like a little bit of a different route, because you're talking about the industry and like other people that you have you've watched maybe stories of them, but like I have seen several authors that you know and or follow who have read your book. And what does that feel like?
Insane. Really insane.
Like, what was your biggest freak out moment?
My biggest freak out moment was when Emily Henry posted the book to feed. I'm a huge, well, so then if you've read Emily Henry is to love Emily Henry. I have been the biggest fan of hers for so long, before I ever wrote a book, and truly have been so inspired by the way that she writes about love and loss and can make you laugh and cry in a single sentence. And she is just like a hero of mine. So definitely that was my biggest freak out. But every single, like, there have been way more freakouts. And like, I once saw accidentally, I don't read reviews, or I try intentionally really hard not to read reviews because I'm thin skinned and can't handle anything. But I one time accidentally had to do something in Barnes and Noble and saw a review that was like, she's paying all these celebrity influencers to like endorse her book, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, whoa, like, if I had the budget to pay celebrities to endorse my book, like, you would see Beyonce like posing with my book. But no, I mean, the way that this works, and I feel like a lot of people don't know like how authors like get their books promoted or blurbed or anything like that. But I'm a debut author, like, no one knows who I am. So it's really, this sounds like ridiculous, but a lot of it is like blind emailing from me, from like my marketer that I've been paired with through my publisher, and from my agent. And every time, like, you have zero, like, I put together a list, I swear to God, of my dream authors I would love to send the book to. And I gave that to the team, and just like blind reach outs to see if people would want to read them. And this is during the blurb process. And you literally don't know, like, you don't know if people are going to post the book. You don't know if people are going to say yes. You don't know if people are going to say yes, then not read the book. You don't know if people are going to send in blurbs. And the entire process, I posted about this on TikTok, is, in my opinion, and maybe this is because I'm new and like I'm like feel like way more of a fan than a peer, but it's so embarrassing because you're basically like emailing your favorite writers being like, hey, like, I love your work so much. Like, I also wrote a book. Could I send it to you? And no worries if not, but you could also read it. And if you do read it, could you tell me why you liked it? But if you didn't like it, can you not tell me, because I don't want to know? Like, it's just so vulnerable and embarrassing. But that's how it happens. Like, that's how Emily Henry got the book. Like, that's how Christina Lauren, who sent the sweetest blurb, and that was my other like like, I cried, fully sobbed moment, was when Christina Lauren sent in her blurb, or Christina and Lauren sent in their blurb, since they're two different people. It all happens through blind conversations on the internet. Like, I don't have personal relationships with any of these authors. Like, I would die to have personal relationships with these authors. Like, I have a couple friends who blurbed the book, who have written books, but like the BookTok faves that have been blowing it up, it's literally just my faves who you know what I think it is? I think the cover's pretty. Like, I think
it is really pretty.
The cover's pretty. And like, that's my theory, because it's really just like so hit or miss. And I will say that I elongated the book process by 3 months because I wanted to get the cover right. Like, real ones who have been following me for a while will know that it was originally supposed to come out in April and it got pushed then to August. And it's because like I pushed back on cover design and like really wanted to get it right, which was really risky and scary as a debut author, because I didn't want to ruffle feathers and I didn't want people to think I was ungrateful or being disrespectful. But I know as a reader that like people do judge books by their covers. So yeah, long-winded way of saying, like, it's been crazy. I never know when it's going to happen. Every time it happens, I'm like, what? Same with press coverage. Like, I really was flying back from going to my boyfriend's family reunion. When I landed, got service after 8 hours, got tagged by like a random dude in a post, which was just like, he had like 50 followers, and it was just pictures of newspapers that had come out that day, and book coverage. And he tagged me. And that's how I found out that the book had been in the Sunday Post. Like, I did not know. Like, I straight up like don't know when stuff is going to happen. It's so hit or miss. It's blind emailing like, hey, I want to pitch this to you, or hey, like I'd love to send you your book. Like I'd literally get hit by a car for you. Like I'm obsessed with you. Like that's the whole way it works.
I love it. I mean, I hate it for you, but I also, and when it works, I bet it feels like a dream. Yeah. And I mean, I love talking about your whole experience, and it just like, before we sign off, I do want to ask like what, I know we're actually, I
went by super
for another
fast.
hour.
Yeah.
So, but I'm curious, like, so for anybody else writing right now, like who is interested in going the traditional publishing route, or just like trying to sit down and like write their book, what is your advice to other writers?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think that like I kind of feel like anyone who seriously wants to be a writer has to be a bit of a sadist, because like the pain never ends. Truly, in my group chat today, I was texting two of my author friends who I really don't have that many, but literally said to me, I'm going to read this aloud. No, this is just the beginning. It won't stop. I'm so sorry. Separate text from a different person. It ruined my life last year. I'm not kidding. I've been driven to madness. So truly, like, it just doesn't end, because like, here's the truth. Writing is personal. All writing is personal to some degree, even if it's not autofiction, even if it's not autobiography. You will always feel like you have a personal connection to your professional life if you start making money from anything creative. It's just true. From what I've heard, the pain doesn't stop, but you do grow a bit more numb to it. So first of all, like, just know that you have to be a bit of a sadist to get into this, because like, oh, it's so emotional. And like, when you want it so bad and you're so passionate and like, it's so important to you, everything feels like, every molehill feels like a mountain. Every month feels like a year. But my biggest piece of advice always to writers is that you have to make yourself write your first draft. I know so many people with fantastic ideas who never end up getting their project off the ground because they discourage themselves halfway through. And that's always me. Like I just hit the halfway mark of a project last week. And literally I'm at that stage where like writing feels like pulling teeth. All I am noticing are the things I'm going to want to sharpen when I do my revision. But there's nothing to sharpen. There's nothing to revise. There's nothing to fix if you don't get that draft down. And I think that a lot of the times the hardest part of writing the book is to make yourself finish writing the book. So create a schedule for yourself, get writing in whenever you can, hold yourself accountable to reaching goals as if you have someone checking in on you at the end of each week saying, have you written, 5,000 words this week? Have you written 2 chapters? Whatever is manageable with your day-to-day life, and get that draft down. I think that, in my opinion, people have different methodologies when it comes to editing. But I think that is way easier. And this is an analogy I use all the time. It's way easier to mold something once you've got the clay. You can't build a sculpture out of thin air. So I really encourage people to force themselves to get that draft down, even if it doesn't make 100% sense, even if there are plot holes, even if there are parts of it that you don't like. And then, once you have a draft that you love, I queried the old-fashioned way. Like I truly encourage you to use websites which are free, like Query Tracker, and the Publishers Marketplace, to see who's looking for what, and who's done a certain amount of deals in the last year. Look in the acknowledgement sections of your favorite books. Like look at who your favorite authors' agents are, and then look at their agencies, and poke around for junior agents who are just, looking for, the next big thing. And yeah, I mean, I really did all of this myself. I, fine-tuned the letter I sent out, the sample chapter, and, just, it felt like the right time. You're never going to feel like anything's ever done. That's like the curse of any artist, is that there's always like more work to be done, but sometimes you just got to let go. Letting go is a gift. When you go to submission, like go for walks, be nice to yourself, don't check your email at the dinner table, have a good network of loved ones who are going to make sure you're like eating and, you know, doing activities unrelated to reading. Don't compare yourself too much to your favorite authors. Like your favorite authors are probably sitting in a bedroom comparing themselves to their favorite authors. But yeah, I mean, it's such a long process, but every single part, there's something fulfilling to be found. And I'm still very much like in it. Like every day feels different to me right now. But as someone who's like finally just, I'm biting the bullet and I'm doing this for real, doing it full time. Like there are some days where I don't hear a peep and all I have to do is like promise myself dessert if I write like another 500 words. And there are some days where like I get to talk to people like you, Maggie, and I get to go speak at events and meet real readers. And, you know, I write the one perfect sentence and suddenly I'm reaffirmed that I'm actually meant to do this. So it's really touch and go, but when you love it, you love it. So
yeah, no, I mean, this is all like incredible advice. I mean, I'm over here like, can she like, does she ever do writing coaching? Like, I feel like you could be a writing coach for people or just like general life coach.
I've never done it. It's very nice. Oh my God. No, I need a life coach. I cannot life coach someone else. Oh my God. That's
got
insane.
it. Too much pressure. We will hands off, but we will
No.
just like floating the writing coach idea because I feel like potential.
I mean, I would love to. Yeah, I mean, I would love to. I have something I've thought about a lot, but I'm just like at this point in my life a little bit too busy, but would love to do eventually. It's like writing workshops for teenagers, because I think like a lot of people are talked out of pursuing writing professionally when they're like late high school, early college, because you know they're told that it's hard to find jobs, it's really competitive, and which, you know, all true, and that there's not a lot of money to be found in writing. But I think that writing is such a valuable skill and such a profound outlet. So I've thought a little bit about doing like creative writing, like maybe like a 6-week workshop for teenagers. But one day we'll put that on like my 2023 vision board.
Perfect.
But yeah.
I was about to say, yeah, everybody, okay, we're looking out for that announcement in the next year. And then what is the exact date that 100 Other Girls comes out?
July 26th. It is a Tuesday. It is going to be like the craziest day of my life. Like, please drop into my DMs, send good vibes my way, send prayers, send memes. I'm like freaking out constantly, but I'm so excited to share this with people finally and to get it into the hands of readers.
Awesome. Well, guys, yeah, look out, either pre-order it or go to the bookstore and pick it up on the 26th. Send her all the love, follow her on all the socials. I'll put them in the description of this video. And like and subscribe so I can talk to more authors like Iman, and
Yes.
it's gonna have, yeah, all the love. Thanks for coming on. I love talking to you.
Oh my God, anytime. You literally know where to find me.